1 Kings 7. I read from the Institute for Scripture Research, the ISR, because it takes a direct translation from Hebrew to English, Greek to English, and Aramaic to English. Yah is short for Yahweh, YahWeh, same thing. Yah is the Elohim of the heavens and the earth, the first and the last and the only. Yah is a very jealous El. He is so jealous that he doesn't even want the names of idols or mighty ones to come to our lips. The letter J is about 600 years old, while the son Yehoshua died on a stake for the sins of all of humanity more than 2,000 years ago. Yehoshua, directly translated from Hebrew to English, is Joshua. Yes, little man? Yes. Yeah, I see. 1 Kings 7. And Solomon built his own house for 13 years, and he completed his entire house. And he built the house of the forest. He built the house of the forest of Lebanon. He built the house of the forest of Lebanon. It was 100 cubits long and 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits high, with 4 rows of cedar columns and cedar beams on the columns, and it was paneled with cedar above the beams that were on 45 columns, 15 in a row, and there were windows with narrowed frames in 3 rows, and window opposite window 3 times, and all the doorways and doorposts had square frames. You'd hope that it had square frames. And window was opposite window 3 times, and he made the porch of the columns 50 cubits long and 40 cubits wide, and the porch was in front of them, and the column was the roof, and the column and the roof was in front of them. And he made a hall for the throne, the hall of right ruling, where he ruled, and it was paneled with cedar from floor to floor. And the house where he was to dwell in the other courtyard within the hall was of like workmanship, so it's of the same. And Shlomo made a house like this hall for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had taken. All these were of precious stone, hewn to size, sawed with a saw inside and out, from the foundation of the coping, and also of the outside of the great courtyard. And the foundation was of precious stone, large stones, stones of 10 cubits and stones of 8 cubits. And above were precious stones, hewn to size, and cedar wood. So the great courtyard all around had 3 rows of hewn stones and a row of cedar beams, and was the inner courtyard. Excuse me. So the great courtyard was all around. So the great courtyard all around had 3 rows of hewn stones and a row of cedar beams, as was the inner courtyard of the house of Yah, and the porch of the house. I was just making sure that I was reading right. I didn't skip anything there. And sovereign Shlomo sent and brought Hiram from Sor. He was the son of a widow from the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Sor, a bronze worker, and he was filled with wisdom and understanding and skill in working with all kinds of bronze work. So he came to sovereign Shlomo and did all his work, and he cast 2 columns of bronze, each one 18 cubits high, and a line of 12 cubits measured the circumference of each. And he made 2 capitals of cast bronze to put on the tops of the columns. The height of one capital was 5 cubits, and the height of the other capital was 5 cubits. a lattice network, Lattice, with wreaths of chainwork, wreath, Wreaths of chainwork for the capitals which were on top of the columns, 7 chains for one capital and 7 for the other capital. And he made the columns and 2 rows of pomegranates above the network all around to cover the capitals that were on top. And so he did for the other capital, and the capitals that were on top of the columns in the hall were in the shape of lilies, 4 cubits. Lilies, Lilies, like the things that frogs jump on when sitting on the water. 4 cubits. And there were capitals above also on the 2 columns by the bulge which was next to the network. And the pomegranates were 200 in rows on each of the capitals all around. And he set up the columns by the porch of the Hekel, and he set up the column on the right and called its name Yakin, Yak with a line underneath of it, In, and he set up the column on the left and called its name Boaz, Bo'Az, and on the top of the column was lily work. Thus the work of the column was completed. And he made the sea of cast metal 10 cubits from one rim to the other round all about, and 5 cubits high, and a line of 30 cubits measured around it, and bowed its rim over ornaments all around, 10 to a cubit, all the way around the sea. The ornaments were cast in 2 rows. When it was cast, it stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, and 3 facing west, and 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. And the sea was set upon them, and all their back parts were inward, and it was a handbreadth thick. So like from your palm, or not your palm, your thumb to your pinky outstretched. And its rim was shaped like the rim of a cup, like a lily blossom. It held 2,000 baths. And he made 10 stands of bronze. Each stand was 4 cubits long, and 4 cubits wide, and 3 cubits high. And this is how the stands were made. They made side panels, and the side panels were between frames. And on the side panels that were between the frames were lions, oxen, and cherubim, and a pedestal above. On the frame below the lions and oxen were wreaths of beaten work, and each stand had 4 bronze wheels and axles of bronze, and its 4 feet had supports under the basin. Under the basin were cast supports beside each wreath, and its opening inside the crown at the top was 1 cubit, and the opening was round like the work of the pedestal, 1.5 cubits, and also on the opening were engravings, but the side panels were square, not round, and the 4 wheels were under the side panels, and the axles of the wheels were joined to the stand. And the height of a wheel was 1.5 cubits, and the wheels were made like chariot wheels. Their axle pins and their rims and their spokes and their hubs were all cast. And there were 4 supports at the 4 corners of each stand. Its supports were of the stand itself, and on top of the stand 1/2 cubit in height, round all around. And on the top of the stand its flanges and its side panels were of the same, and on the plates of its flanges, 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 And on its side panels he engraved cherubim, lions, and palm trees according to the clear space on each, with wreaths all around. He made the 10 stands like this. All of them were of one mold, one measure, and one shape. And he made 10 basins of bronze. Each basin contained 40 baths, and each basin was 4 cubits, one basin on each of the 10 stands. And he put 5 stands on the right side of the house and 5 stands on the left side of the house. And he put the sea on the right side of the house to the east, facing the south. And Hiram made the pots and the shovels and the bowls. And Hiram completed doing all the work that he was to do for the sovereign Shlomo on the house of Yah, and 2 columns and the bull-shaped capitals that were on top of the columns, and the 2 networks covering the 2 bull-shaped capitals which were on top of the columns, and the 400 pomegranates for the 2 networks, 2 rows of pomegranates for each network to cover the 2 bull-shaped capitals that were on top of the columns, and the 10 stands and the 10 basins on the stands, and the 1 sea and 12 oxen under the sea, and the pots and the shovels and the bowls, and all these utensils which Hiram made for sovereign Shlomo for the house of Yah were of polished bronze. The sovereign had them cast in clay in the district of Yarden between Sukkoth, Sukkoth, and Sarathan, Tsarethan. And Shlomo left all the utensils unweighed, because they were many, nor was the weight of the bronze searched out. So Shlomo made all the utensils for the house of Yah, the slaughter place of gold, and the table of gold on which was the showbread, and the lampstands of refined gold, 5 on one side and 5 on the other, left in front of the speaking place, with the flowers and the lamps and the snuffers of gold, and the basins and the snuffers and the bowls and the ladles and the fire holders of refined gold, and the hinges of gold, both for the doors of the inner house, the most set apart place, and for the doors of the house of the Hekel. Thus all the work which sovereign Shlomo had done for the house of Yah was completed. And Shlomo brought in the set apart items of his father David, the silver and the gold and the utensils, and he put them in the treasuries of the house of Yah. Interesting.